Hello, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome all of you to our Leadership Institute for tomorrow's webinar. This might be your first time joining us in the LIFT webinars. Because of the pandemic, we have been actually on a pause mode for some time. So it's so great to start our webinar series again. For those of you who is connecting with our LIFT for the first time, I want to just briefly share with you what LIFT is about. LIFT is housed at Cal State Fullerton, California State University Fullerton higher education department, specifically under the Community College Leadership EDD program. Our mission is to develop leaders, leadership competencies to address the issues of justice, equity, and inclusiveness. So unlike other leadership institutes in higher education that serve predominantly executive level leaders like deans and above, we have always aimed to serve all and really targeting entry, mid-level administrators. We have faculty, and most importantly, we also have lots of classified professionals for our participants in the Leadership Institutes. And why is that? That's where diversity most exists in higher education, and especially in the community colleges. And LIFT utilizes creative and inspirations of art to help us developing leadership strength and competencies, as well as managing and leading technology. So we use technologies as our power tool in managing and leading technology change. Each individual will be able to understand and aware and gain competencies for that. We believe that leaders are not born, but they are made, because leadership mindset and behaviors can be learned, practiced, and perfected. So today, we're going to start with a series of 4 Vision for Success leadership webinars sponsored by California Community College Chancellor's Office. So we want to thank them for the sponsorship for these leadership webinar series. I think for that reason, it's especially important for us to just have a quick review of the Chancellor's Office Vision for Success goals quickly. And there are 6. One is increase the number of students acquiring associate degrees, credentials, certificates, or specific skills, increase it by 20%. 2 is increase our UC and CSU transfers by 35%. 3 is reduce the average number of units accumulated by students earning their AA degrees. And number 4 on the next page is increase the percent of career technical education students reporting being employed when they exit their program of study. And number 5 is to reduce the equity gaps. Reduce the equity gaps across all of those above that I just mentioned through a faster improvement among traditionally underrepresented student groups. And finally, number 6 is to reduce the regional achievement gaps across all of those measures that we just talked about through a faster improvement among colleges located, especially regions with the lowest educational attainment of adults. So if you've never seen the Vision of Success goals, now you know some of them. These are what we aim toward within the 5-year period. And then we'll set new goals for the next Vision for Success. but these are not easy goals to achieve. So we need everyone's effort to help our students achieve those goals. And everyone in our entire system needs to exert our leadership effort toward that end. So those these webinars are offered free in the hopes that we will grow more and more diverse leaders toward our goals in building a stronger, more just, equitable system. And we also aim to encourage, especially, and support our classified professionals to attend these professional development webinars, and you'll hear why. So in addition, I want to say is that we will be offering LIFT Institutes, which is an extensive period of time. We used to do these in person. So this year, we're going to do it virtually later this fall in November. So as a participant today, you will receive information. And we strongly encourage you to take advantage of leadership opportunities from LIFT, because you will not only have fun, intersect your own identity, strength, your culture with leadership concepts, but also you will be immersed with art and technology in our institutes. So we are in the business of cultivating, nurturing future leaders who recognize their own mission and developing skills and competencies, and most importantly, a mindset and attributes to be just, equitable, and inclusive leaders in each of you. So today, we start our leadership webinar series when developing the leadership mindset. My first question to you, all of you, is, do you see yourself as a leader? Do you see yourself as a leader? I want you to think about that. Maybe that answer is very quick, come to your mind. If your answer is yes, I want you to say this out loud. I am a leader. Yeah, we can hear you. I am a leader. If your answer is yes, say that out loud for me. Great. And if your answer is no, that you don't see yourself as a leader, can you say this out loud? I will be a leader in an hour. I will be a leader in an hour after this hour. So yes, your ticket out of this webinar is your vision for your own success goals. There's the Chancellor's Office success goals, but you got to have your own vision of success goals of being a leader, leading with your own life. And then you help your colleagues, inspire them, and you help support all of our students to achieve success. That's the way. So we truly need you and your leadership. To start us off today, we have invited two leaders from the California Community College Classified Senate, the current president, Tricia Elberson, who works as an accountant at Chaffey College, and the past president, Karen Jimenez. And she just received a promotion, as I understand, and now works at Saddleback College as the interim director of annual giving. So congratulations to you and also your leadership. And in addition, with us today also is very well-known author Joe Brittle, who has written the book on the 6 attributes of leadership mindset. So Joe is a psychological coach. He's a management consultant, has been involved with innate leaders for a long time. And our topic today is absolutely his expertise. That's why we reached out to him, and he's really, really gracious for his time to join us. So we're very fortunate that all 3 of them have joined us today. So let me start with Joe first. Welcome to LIFT Seminar, Vision for Success, Joe.
Thank you very much, and thank you for having me. It's a real pleasure.
Great. I want to talk to you first about this concept of leadership mindset. To
Mm,
me, it starts with leadership identity, right? Get the question I asked everybody just now. Do you
yeah,
see yourself as a leader, regardless of the title and rank you have? So
yeah.
it is a mindset of how we show up every day, thinking about ourselves as leader or not. So can you tell us what is your definition of leadership mindset in this leadership identity?
Well, it ties into what you have just been saying, Dr. Curry, because the thing is that for me, a leadership mindset is a way of looking at the world born out of our experiences that leads to a set of behaviors. So that may seem like a whole bunch of words, but what I'm really saying here is the way that we've been raised, the environments that we find ourselves in, the situations that we find ourselves in, our social circles, all of those things create a worldview, a way of looking at the world, which then translates to how we think about leadership. So we could have a worldview and then a very specific mindset around leadership. So if I haven't been exposed to people perhaps who look like me, who are in leadership roles, that will affect how I think about leadership and my ability to lead. If I have seen lots of people like me, that may affect, or if I have seen many leaders who are perhaps inspiring to me, that will affect the way that I think. Or if I have a manager who perhaps doesn't inspire me, that will affect my way. So if I can just to be really clear, because this connection between the way that we see ourselves, the way that we see the world, and how we behave is really fundamental to the whole idea of a leadership mindset. And if I can, for just a second, just kind of pull it away from leadership for just a moment to just kind of highlight the importance of that. Because I don't know if anybody has had an experience where we've walked into an elevator, let's say, and we're on the ground floor and we hit 5 because we want to go to floor 5, and the lift goes up, the elevator goes up, the doors open, and we step out. And it takes us a teeny little second to just realize, oh, this isn't floor 5, this is floor 2. So I go back into the elevator, I press 5, the doors close, and I go back up. And the reason why that's so important in terms of mindset is because what that is saying is the experiences that I've had up to that time is when I go into an elevator and I press 5, I get up there, and then the next time the doors open, I expect it to be floor 5. So it's just a little moment where the world as is in conflict, if you like, with the world as we see it. And that's true about leadership too. So sometimes the world as is presents itself differently and we think that we can't lead. So for example, if I don't have a title, if I don't have a title in my name that says, CEO or manager or whatever it is, sometimes I think my worldview becomes, well, I guess then I don't lead. I guess then I just do as I'm told. And I don't think that these things are necessarily true. Just because a leadership mindset is available to everybody all of the time to lead ourselves in our everyday lives.
Yeah, Joe. So what you just touched on is important. So you're talking about leading others. And that's one of the reasons I think many do not see themselves as leaders because they don't have a team. So I wanted
Yeah.
to just roll back a little. So tell us about this leadership mindset. It's and the importance of that in thinking as a leader, leading our own lives. Why is that so important? Just starting with ourselves, the leadership mindset attributing to leading our own lives first.
Because it begins there. Because I think like our mindsets that say to us, I don't lead because I don't have a title or I don't have this, is kind of one of the inhibitors of being able to lead in our own lives. And the number of people who come up to me and say just that, right? That I don't have a team, I don't have this, I don't have a title, I don't really see myself as a leader. What I often say to people is, hey, did you get out of bed this morning? Did you wash yourself? Did you brush your teeth? Did you get to your first meeting on time? Did you contribute in that meeting? If you're doing those things on a regular basis, you're leading yourself through life, whether we recognize it or not. So then the question is, can I really own that? Can I really own the fact that actually I am doing things in my own life on a personal level And now I can translate that out so that when I go into work, let's say, do I have to be someone who is just listening to what other people are saying and doing as I'm told, so to speak? Or can I say, well, actually, if I were doing this, I would be doing this, or I see an opportunity for us to grow here, or to do something different here, and have the courage of our convictions almost to be able to follow through on those things.
Okay, and then you mentioned about the titles and how that comes into play with our perceptions about leaders. You know, we're all from higher education sector. In every industry, there seems to be a pecking order, right? And I call it the caste system, where certain roles are on the top, and then in our system, we have the largest group of membership called the classified professionals. And there are the strongest support system that actually hold up the system, working from office administrative work, technical staff, or taking care of our computer systems, to those who help our working environment to be clean and beautiful. So I think most administrators in our system right now already see themselves as leaders, right? I hope. And faculty are certainly king in academic world, so they also have this leadership, and their students think of themselves as leaders in the classroom. Really bow to the professors, right? Then for the hundreds and thousands of classified professionals who may not see themselves as leaders on an academic campus environment, since they may not have anybody reporting to them, as you were talking about it earlier, or they may not lead a project or a team. How can someone who is in those kind of roles or don't see themselves as a leader on a campus environment adopt this leadership mindset, and why is it important that they do?
So first of all, it's important that they do, because when we are going through our roles or our lives, it's important that we see ourselves, that we recognize the contribution that we're doing. And you were just saying, classified workers are the scaffolding that keeps the entire operation going. That's an important role. And if we can see that that's our role, and we can see the importance of that role, that's a really, really good first step. The second step, though, is this is back to the mindset, because if we are willing to give, let's say, a higher status, a higher caste, if we recognize that caste system and we say, so the people at the top of the caste, they're a 10. What we're necessarily doing, though, is because we give them that high caste, we're then naturally giving ourselves a lower caste. And that changes the way that we behave toward them. Does that make sense? So if I give somebody a high status, I am necessarily giving myself a lower status. And we can change that by going, well, actually, do I need to, or do I want to? So just in like the corporate world, for example, if you're in the corporate world, you have like the CEO, and I work with lots of CEOs, and they say to me, there's this frustration that they have that they will say something off the cuff and everybody acts like it's gospel truth. And it's not. It's just a thing that they're saying. But that's happening because other people are giving them such a high status. And I think that's true within the classified system too, within the campuses, that if we say to other people, you have this, and I defer to you, think about what you're saying about yourself. And do you really want to send that message to your colleagues and also to the people that you perceive to be higher up in the caste?
That is very true. I tell you, because I was just talking to someone the other day. I see them talking to their colleagues in one way, but when they're in front of our boss, their demeanors change.
Sure.
They're not talking as if they're equal colleagues anymore. And
Sure.
I think part of it is that respect for the position. But based on what you're saying is that you also don't want to see yourself as not as equal as human beings, just because you wear a different title that you don't have anybody else. Is that what you're saying?
That's exactly what I'm saying. And that's self-imposed, right? So like, we're not doing that because I'm guessing that, the professors and the people higher up in the caste system, I don't imagine that they demand that. We're just doing it. So the question is, do we need to? Definitely we want respect for the position. Definitely we want respect for the person, but more respect than another colleague? I don't think so. And that's a mindset. We just want to treat everybody with with an equal amount of respect.
Right. And oftentimes those who don't have the position power feels very powerless.
Yes.
And so I hear that a lot from those who are who have no one reporting to them, that they have that sense of powerlessness and
Sure.
not the leader feeling of empower. I am empowered to do something about the situation. And if I ask everybody, do you feel like you have the power? You have what you can do contributing to those vision for success goals. I I don't know if you can comment about that.
Well, would agree with that entirely, because what I would say is this, you know, our our ability to contribute to the success goals, the vision for success goals, doesn't depend on a title. It depends on our willingness to support them. And we don't need a title for that. We just live it. We just decide that, yes, this is something that I'd like to work with, and then we work toward it. And by doing that, we become an example to everybody else. And that's another important point of a leadership mindset, that as we grow in our own mindset, we become an example to other people, and we become an inspiration to other people too. And like a title or a position is not required to be able to do that.
Right.
I've been inspired by like cab drivers, right? Not that that's worse or that's a low job, but I'm just saying that you don't have to have something that may traditionally be looked down on or something like that. It doesn't have to be.
Right. And so the college, the president may have certain programs about the vision for success, but I could actually take a look at it within my own spheres of work. How can I contribute? How can I make the campus, if I'm cleaning the campus, what does that mean when the students
Exactly.
have a clean campus and take pride in it? How can I make the environment much better? How can I make this process smoother for students
And
within
that's
the
how
space we can control?
that's entirely true. And that's how I become a leader within my sphere of influence, because that's what it's all about. And if I'm a senior person, if I'm the president, maybe I have a larger sphere of influence, but any sphere of influence is an ability to be a leader.
Right. I have an example actually, as you were just talking, inspired me and reminded me. Uh, Carol Sloya was her name. She demonstrated her leadership, and she worked in an admissions office as a staff person. And what she did was she alone brightened everybody's life. And
Yeah.
she brought in a vase of flower, and she gave it to a colleague sitting next to her. And of course, when you give flowers, oh, it's not my birthday, it's not a special day. But what happened is it brightened her face up and made her day. But what Carol told her is, when you're done enjoying for an hour, pass it on to the next person. So guess what? For the entire day, her leadership showed through.
That's
She
right.
just took the initiative, and everybody in the whole office had a wonderful day. Of course, that flower vase passed on for the rest of the week.
That's beautiful. One of the things, that I talk about in the book around creating leaders is that getting the task done obviously is important, and we need to get the job done, but it's not the most important part, because the most important opportunity of any task is, how do I choose to lead, and how do I choose to create a platform for other people to lead as I do this task, whatever the task may be.
Thank you. Great. Now I'm going to turn to Trisha and Karen. Trisha and Karen, for both of you, you have worked in the classified staff, and now you're serving leadership for the classified Senate. What is your story? Maybe before I ask you the story, well, maybe some do not know anything about what the classified Senate is about. Perhaps you can just educate us a little bit about the California Community College Classified Senate. what is that?
Sure. Karen, unmute yourself and you can add into here. If Christopher could show a couple slides that we have, that would be great. There we go. So the California Community Colleges Classified Senate, as the slide says, I really don't want to read it to you, but that's kind of the one of the easiest ways. We were formed as a nonprofit organization back in '92 by classified throughout the state. There was a group of them who got together, and really it was, the main focus was to participate in the governance process in the community colleges, and to help support those who wanted leadership roles throughout. We also help promote professional development, and more than anything is the success of our students. Karen, did you want to add anything on that one?
No, I think you did a great job. That's dead on.
So the next slide, if you can switch us over. Thank you. This just kind of shows, you know, who we are. We are professional, classified throughout the state. We represent all of our classified. We do professional and leadership development opportunities by having events and activities. We also support the development at the community colleges for those who don't currently have classified senates, because not every college actually has one. We have somewhere between 60 and 70 of them currently throughout the system. And we serve on statewide boards also, besides the current one as 4CS. And we're elected by those classified that we support. Karen, anything else?
No, I mean, I think we also, sorry, I'm in a very loud neighborhood. We also definitely have a voice on our campuses and in committees, on various committees on our campuses. So it goes from local, and then it sort of, you know, spreads out to a statewide representation of classified professionals. And it is very different. Let me just put in there, it's very different from our bargaining units. We are very focused on student success. That is really what in our professional and leadership development, we're very focused on those topics.
All right. Okay, thank you. And we can take the slide down and just have a conversation with the two of you now. So what is your story of becoming statewide leadership roles, right, in the classified Senate as a classified professional person? And did you have the leadership mindset that we were just discussing together? I'd like to hear your story.
Go for it, Karen. I'll let you.
I will let the president take it. So how I became involved in leadership, well, I think I have always had a leadership mindset. I'm an only child, so my voice has always been very strong. I've had very supportive parents that have always let me express myself, and so I think that has been such a major foundation. And then we moved around quite a bit until I was about 12 years old. So being an only child and moving around a lot, you just have to get yourself in there. And even when you really don't want to, there have been so many times I'm like, I don't want to do this today, but I just have to push myself and just get in there. And I think that is how I, for the most part, kind of lived my life. I've tried different things. I've had a wide career. So once I came into the community college system, it was a very interesting process, kind of coming from the outside world. I was in theater and performing arts. So there's always been a very collaborative experience I've had through that. And so when I came into the community college system, it was a really interesting transition into the various areas on campus. And ultimately, how I got involved with the Senate was I was just asked. Somebody just approached me as a new employee and asked if I would be interested. I had no idea what any of it meant, and so I just started getting involved. in the participatory governance process through the Senate. And then at one point I was asked if I'd be interested in serving on the as an executive officer on our local Senate. And then around the same time I was asked if I'd be interested in participating on the statewide Senate. And I'm just sort of a, sure, why not? Let's see what happens kind of a person. So, and I really love the idea of being involved on the statewide Senate as well, because there are just experiences in my life I really wanted to bring in, and some of my education I could use in that situation. I think there are sometimes skills and talents we have that don't always get satisfied in our particular role at work. So I've always tried to find other ways to use my skills and talents. So that's where the statewide board was really helpful and has really let me, experience. It's helped me not only get the experience, but it's been supportive when I hate to say it, but failed whenever it hasn't come to fruition all the time, but they've helped be like, well, let's see what we can do. How can we transition this? How can we change it? So it's been really great to work with everyone and have such a collaborative effort, and hear from people across the state and their support. So, and it just kind of continues to feed my desire to keep going. So that's kind of my story.
Thank you.
All righty. So now my story is I'm not an only child, so I was very much an introvert growing up. But it was always the mindset put into me growing up was that I needed to be educated, because if I chose to get married, I still needed to be able to take care of myself in case something happened to my spouse. So education was always important. And so I got my education, got my degree, started at Chapey back in 2000. And I, like Karen, was asked, hey, do you want to run for a senator on our local Senate? And that was in about 2002. And I'm like, yeah, sure. I'll try it. I'm new to the college. It would get me getting used to the different ways from being in private industry. So I could learn how the college ran. And I'm like, okay. And then I thought, well, I have an accounting degree after a couple of years. I'll run for treasurer. That was where I was comfortable at. Then in 2006, things changed, and our current president at that time of the Senate left the college. And so they asked me, hey, can you fill in for this president role, just until elections, I'm like, yeah, sure, I'll see what that's all about. Not realizing that there was lots of public speaking with that position, and that is not my comfort zone at all. I'm still, my hands are sweaty here. I'm not comfortable publicly speaking, but I've gotten used to it now over 20 years. So then elections came around and somebody nominated me as president. And I'm like, okay, I'll go ahead and try this thing. Well, I was elected. So I continued to do that. And even with all the public speaking, I think the one person that helped me with that was a communications teacher at the college who I'd had for communication of 3 different classes when I was a student at Chapey. She would always come backstage and tell me, Trisha, you got this. You're good. You're better at public speaking than you think. You can do this. And without her, I don't think I would have gotten up on that stage every single year, twice a year, and at all the events where I had to speak, but I did. So it's still not my comfort space at all, but I've learned to do it. So I had that position as Senate president till this past May. I don't know if it's an honor, but the longest running classified Senate president in the state of California for our local Senates. But during all that time, I had attended the Classified Leadership Institute that 4CS puts on an annual basis. And in 2014, they so kindly awarded me their Classified Senate President's Service Award. It was the first time that they gave it out. And mainly it was because I was the longest running president at that time. And after that, they kept nudging me. The president at that time was Maureen, and they're like, we really want you on the board. You should come and try the state board. And so I did in 2015. I ran for an area rep and was there for a couple years, and then ran for treasurer, because again, that's my comfort zone. Numbers are my comfort zone, not being up speaking in public, or I liked being behind the scenes. That's where I'm comfortable at. Well, life happens, and this past March, our president-elect had to step back. And so Karen so graciously came to me and said, hey, what do you think about letting me appoint you to finish out the president-elect term and then going on the ballot in June for the 4CS presidency? And I'm like, well, okay. I'm like, I can do this. I know I can do it because we have an amazing board. Our board members are great. And I do think one of the things that helps me with being a leader is I am very, very organized. I do tasks lists, I do regular lists, I have calendars with everything on it. It's just what keeps me going and able to maintain an 8-to-5 job and do the 4CS board, which is fully volunteer. So it's on all of our time when we're not doing our normal job with our colleges. And I think one of the other things is I am pretty good at delegating out duties to those who I see have certain strengths. And so I can't do this by myself. And I'm very grateful for Karen and the board because without them, we would, working as a team, we wouldn't be where we are. We've moved forward a whole lot in the almost 30 years that the organization's been around. And so it's something I enjoy doing. I love seeing them. The last 16 months has been horrible by not being able to meet in person. I mean, thank goodness for Zoom, at least we get to see each other's faces, but you know, and so that's kind of my story, coming from somebody who hates being in the public eye and being behind the scenes is where I prefer, to now being the statewide Senate president.
Yeah, I think the majority, the 80-20 rule, I think about when you were talking about it, that the majority of us actually don't feel comfortable and don't want to be in the limelight, you know, be at the head of the table or something. But what I garner out of both of your story is that you just continue to say yes, despite that, you know, your hands might be sweating and your legs might be shaking, despite that you don't think you can do it, you say yes. And I heard that, I think I'll try it anyway. And that just keep, you know, leading you to the next step. So that takes that leadership mindset, just say, I will try it, right? So with that, I'm going to turn to Joe. Can you spend a little time, Joe, with us today about the 6 leadership mindset that you have developed? And I know we don't have time to cover all 6 in detail. I'll turn it over to you and to help us on this journey of developing leadership mindset with some attributes.
Okay, thank you very much. So what I'll do is I'm just going to touch on, well, there's 6 of them, so I'll touch really briefly on all 6, but then we'll do a little bit of a dive on one of them. And so if we could have the slide up for the book cover, I think, has all 6 listed there, luckily enough. So let's start with mindfulness. So mindfulness is this idea of, you know, we've heard about it in terms of meditation, we've heard about it in terms of a mindful practice, and we're taking those ideas and we're taking it a little bit further, because what we're saying is, if my mindset, the way that I think about the world born out of my experiences, sometimes that can be helpful and sometimes it can be not. But the only way that we can know that is if we can be present with ourselves and notice how we're behaving in certain circumstances. So if we can be aware, self-aware and self-reflective, so that we're seeing what we're doing, we're seeing why we're doing it, we're seeing where it's coming from, now we start to have options. And that leads us to genuine curiosity. And both Tricia and Karen were really good examples of genuine curiosity, because as you noticed more than once, they were saying things like, you know, somebody offered me this and I was like, yeah, I'll go and find out what that's about. And that is genuine curiosity. It's a willingness to have a beginner's mind and look at something with fresh eyes just for the sake of it. So not because I'm going to have a prestigious position, or not because I'm going to have whatever it may be, but really just so that I can go, yeah, I'd like to just explore this. And that's what you guys both did. You did an absolutely great job of it. And then we have flexibility of mind, and flexibility of mind is really about being able to push the boundaries of our thinking so that we can recognize, and this is also mindfulness, they all kind of work together. They're not really separate, but mindfulness kind of allows us to see that there's more than one valid way to do something. And flexibility of mind goes, well, what might that be? How can I combine these things? Or what might be a different way to get to the same place that I'm trying to get to? So flexibility of mind is really about being able to pivot very, very quickly and not hold on to, it needs to be this way. Almost like, we were saying before, the person is the president or whatever it may be, and I have to behave this certain way to them. No, you don't. Flexibility of mind means, is there different ways that we can interact? Creating leaders of others is about recognizing that the opportunity in anything isn't just to get something done, but it's to think about the impact that I'm having on other people around me. And by doing that, I create a platform for them to lead as well. Resilience is, if it was easy to do any of these things, actually, if it was easy to do anything in life, we wouldn't need books, you wouldn't need me, you wouldn't need it very much. You would just get it done. But of course, it is hard to do things. And resilience is the ability to be able to keep our eyes on that prize and to keep on going even when it's really difficult. And then finally, enterprise thinking is the ability to be able to think beyond what we're doing, whatever my role may be, to think beyond that and to look at the wider picture. So for example, Dr. Curry was talking about, there is a strategy and there's a way that we can do things. There is the vision of success, but where do I see myself in that? That's really important, and that's holding an enterprise view. So like I say, I'm not going to say very much more about all of those. We're just going to kind of work on one. But what I would say is that if these are interesting to you, you can obviously buy the book and you can read about it. But also what you can do is go to sixattributes.com, and there's a place there where we could have what we call the six attributes profile. There's the link for it right there. And you can go and you can take a little quiz. It's not scientific. It's just like a little bit of fun to see, where do you sit on the 6 attributes. So like what you'll do is you'll answer about, I think it's 20 questions or something like this, maybe a bit more. And then it'll spit out a graph that will show you, this is where you are, this is where the people who've done the test, this is where they are. And you can sort of compare yourself and see kind of how that goes. The really good thing about that is if you know, for example, that actually I'm a bit low in flexibility of mind, and you find yourself getting stuck in a trap of this is how I should do it, even though it's not necessarily working, but you can't think of another way. You can, perhaps you're high on mindfulness and you can go, well, actually, let me just take a moment here and consider a different way, or let me notice that I'm getting stuck in this trap. Okay. So thank you for those, Chris. We can take that slide off now. What I'd like to do is just give you an opportunity to play around with one attribute, and that's going to be flexibility of mind. So pretty simple this, but kind of fun, hopefully for you, because what I'm going to ask you to do is, can you find 3 objects within easy reach? So don't go working too hard for these, but 3 objects within easy reach on your desk that you can identify and you can use for this exercise. So 3 objects, whatever they may be. If I was playing right now, I'd have a pen, because I've got my pen with me. I've got my water bottle with me, and I have my day timer with me. So these 3 things, I'd probably play with those. And if you can find 3 things too, that would be great. And when you found those 3 things, what I would like you to do is I would like you to see if you can combine these 3 different objects into one object where all of them are feeding into how that object operates. Okay, so we're combining these 3 things. So the water bottle no longer functions as a water bottle. It functions as something else combined with the other 2 things to create something new. Okay, so I'll give you like, let's say we'll give you 2 minutes or a minute and a half, probably, because we want to keep on time. So about a minute and a half, can you find a new purpose? Can you repurpose your 3 things to one thing instead of 3 separate things? Give it a go, see where you come up with. So while you're doing that, flexibility of mind is all about the ability to be able to see things differently, right? So if we're getting stuck and we're thinking, but my pen is a pen, my pen is a pen, I can't think of any other use for it. That's kind of what we mean by flexibility of mind. Can you find a different use for it? Can you not think of it as a pen, for example? And then more than that, because I'm asking for quite a lot here, can you combine it with the other 2 things into something else? It's quite hard, right? It's quite difficult, but this is what we mean about flexibility of mind. That sometimes as we go through life, we can have what I often call an inflexibility of mind, which is things are just things and they're just the way they are. Or my role is just my role and this is all I do. Or the president is the president and I have to behave this way. Those are all what I would call inflexible ways of looking at the world, as opposed to this very malleable way. Think about kids, right? When a kid picks up, I don't know, a piece of wood, they don't see it as a piece of wood. It could be a car, or it could be a rocket, or it could be anything at all. And that's that kind of plastic, flexible mind that can adapt really, really, really quickly. So I know I didn't give you that much time, but does anybody, Karen, Trisha, Dr. Curry, does anybody have something that you can tell us? These were your 3 objects and this is what you combine them into.
I guess I could try.
Sure.
I had a cell phone, my desk calculator, and my iced tea, which is in a real glass, so I don't think that could change. But I don't know if my calculator could be changed to anything, but my cell phone I could use as a calculator instead of a phone and get rid of the calculator. But those were the 3 things that were in quick reach.
Thanks, Trisha. Thank you. I absolutely appreciate that. It is hard, right? And that's the thing about shifting mindsets, is it's not a simple, easy thing. Like, we don't just go, I'm going to shift my mindset, because if it were that easy, we wouldn't have the mindset we do. We hold the mindset we do because we have, our experiences have led us to believe that this is a good way of looking at the world. The trick to it, though, is it the only way of looking at the world? And are we willing to push the boundaries of our thinking? So, for example, my 3 things, water bottle, pen, and day timer. Well, what about if I created a Zen garden? So this becomes the base of that Zen garden. I can smash this up, and then this becomes the rocks or the gravel. And then I can move them all around with my pen, which now becomes a rake. So all 3 of them have combined into a Zen garden. And that's kind of what I mean. Can we be flexible enough in our thinking that we can just let something go and we can jump? Like, maybe when I said we smash this up, maybe some of you went, what? You're going to smash that up? That's crazy. But that's the idea of flexibility. Can we do something completely different that perhaps isn't even something that we think of? So if you like those ideas, like I say, you can read the book and you can play around with it a little bit more, or you can go and just explore these ideas on 6attributes.com and play around with the profile.
All right. Joe, I have some questions of some participants. Is that okay?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, and that's for real. We talked about people who have titles. They have position power. They could veto your idea. So I empower myself and I give a suggestion to the boss, or improving something, but the president or the dean or whoever that has the authority says, no, we can't do that. So they met with lots of no's. What do you do? What advice do you have?
So I would say 2 things. So one is from a mindset perspective and one is from a practical perspective. So the practical perspective is, wherever we are in an organization, sometimes we don't have all the information. And I would trust that the president, let's say, has probably more information than I do. So sometimes I can say, why don't I do X, Y, Z? And the president's like, well, no, we can't really do that. And that could just be a very practical thing that we don't have the funds or the resources or the budget or whatever it may be. And I wasn't aware of that when I first said it. So that's one part of it. That's the practical part. The mindset part is this, though. Just because the president says we can't really act on it, that doesn't mean that we have to say, oh, my idea is terrible, or I'm terrible, or I shouldn't do that again in the future. So that can be strong. And I know it's really easy to say these things, and it can be hard to really do. But just because an idea isn't acted on doesn't mean that it's not a good idea. Doesn't mean that people, that I should never try again. Doesn't mean that I should never think about how I could improve within my area. So that's something that we decide to put on ourselves, right? If the president says, no, we can't do it, and I walk away and go, well, I'm never going to raise a point ever again, that's something that we've said for ourselves. And that's about mindfulness. That's about going, okay, this is my reaction to it, and I feel that, but is it really true? And do I have the resilience to bring another idea forward?
Okay, well, we may not have time to get to all of your questions, but you can chat your questions and we'll make sure that we get some answers for you, even after the webinar. That's my commitment. And we have time for maybe one more question before we bring it to close, is that how do you let titles stop you from your own leadership mindset when people say president and doctor so-and-so, and you don't have whatever they have, whether it's the big title or a doctorate, educational degree. So how should our mindset be when we have these things thrown at us all the time, every day?
Asking me this one?
Yeah.
Okay, so I would kind of highlight this idea that I call given status. So given status is the status that we give someone as opposed to the status that they demand, if that makes sense, right? So for example, like I mentioned before, that if I am in a meeting and other people have their PhDs or they're presidents of this or they're maybe I walk in the room and I go, oh my goodness, I probably shouldn't even be here. But what I'm doing in that moment is I'm giving status to people. And typically I'm giving them a higher status than me. So there's this thing that I think is really powerful and important, in that very often as we go through life, we see ourselves kind of in two ways, or three ways, I suppose. One is we see ourselves as less than other people, with a lower status than other people. Everybody else is better than me at X, Y, Z. We see ourselves as better than other people, that I'm better at that, at X, Y, Z than them. But I would say there's a third way, which is I'm the same as other people. And it doesn't matter what titles they have or what this they have. If I am secure enough in myself, if I am mindful in myself that just by virtue of the fact that I am a human being, that I'm doing the best that I can in my life, in my role, that is enough. We are enough. So when we come across someone who has a title that we don't have, or a degree that we don't have, or an education that we don't have, or money that we don't have, it doesn't matter. You are enough. And you are an equal with them just by virtue of the fact that you are who you are and they are who they are.
All right. And I just chatted to everybody to please, if you have questions, we do want to address, except we are running out of time. So I'm trying to bring this to a close and circle back to our esteemed present panel with us, is that if you can, in just a short minute or less, give us some final thoughts or reflection to share as we close.
I guess that's to me.
Yeah, go ahead, Karen.
I would say just a short final, just to, believe in yourself. That's one thing getting into the Senate has brought to me is trusting in my abilities a lot more than what I thought I had. I can do a lot more than what I used to believe in myself. And also just having the supportive people around me, knowing that if I have difficulty, I can turn to them and they're there. And being on the 4CS board has definitely been a blessing in my life. And it's definitely been there for me. They've been there. They're like family and not just coworkers or others who volunteer. So I think if you have the curiosity, please reach out to us. We would love to help you build a Senate or even have you become a volunteer on the 4CS board.
And I mirror what Trisha's saying. Just stay curious. I did see somebody's question about asking your administrator and coming with suggestions. And I would just say kind of what Joe said, like if they don't accept that suggestion, it doesn't mean it was a bad idea. So just keep coming with suggestions. I actually had an executive director I used to work for that the first time I would go to him with an idea, he'd be like, no, straight out the gate. I was like, wait, what? So, and then it really made me go back and think how I need to represent that suggestion. And then I would go back to him if it was something I was like, no, I really believe in this. And then I would go back and he would be more open to hearing it. So it was an interesting way to learn, because I love just throwing out ideas. And so it really made me have to start really filtering my ideas and understand like what I really, really wanted to work on. But don't give up and maintain curiosity. And if you're not finding that in your workplace, you try to go for another outlet if you can, or, you know, you may decide that's not the workplace for you, but don't give up on yourself, your leadership, your ideas. Don't give up on it.
Absolutely. And I would just say that mindset is phenomenally important. To me, it's the bedrock of everything that we do. All of our behaviors stem from the way that we think. So our mindset can work for us and our mindset can work against us too. And being willing to look at the way that we think about ourselves in given situations is the beginning of how we start to shift the way that we think and how we work toward a leadership mindset.
Thank you very much. We hope that all of you have gained some knowledge about first the Chancellor's Office vision for success, and more importantly, that you have gained some new perspective about your own leadership mindset. For those of you who started not seeing yourself as a leader, I hope you are switching that mindset, that you do have to lead your own life. So start there. And I want to thank Patricia and Karen's leadership at the statewide level and sharing your experiences about the 4CS. And Joe, I want to thank you for bringing your wisdom on the attributes of leadership mindset. Let me see if I know them by heart. Flexibility of the mind, mindfulness, having the resilience, genuine curiosity, and creating leaders, right? And
Mindfulness.
Mindfulness and in the enterprise kind of a thing.
Enterprise thinking, yes.
Okay, all right. So we have to have you back at the lift to explore them further in detail.
I would love to. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I want to thank everybody's participation. I don't know if Chris is having this next slide up. Our next webinar is on August 13th, same time. So it's about leaders who started a journey as classified professionals and made it all the way to the presidents. And you would not want to miss their stories and wisdom.